Aloha, I'm Reverend Tim Lytle, Senior Minister here at Unity Church of Hawaii in Honolulu. And we are so grateful for all of you who watch us on our YouTube channel. We know with you that as you view these teachings and apply them to your lives, that it helps to build your life into the very best one that can be imagined. If you're ever in the area, please come and join us for a service, and please enjoy the message that you're about to watch. Aloha.
All you need is love. That's some true stuff. All right.
Nothing like having the Beatles in church, right? Thank you, Danettes and Dan and Van. Kevin on guitar. All right. So our topic today is all you need is love. And you know, the truth of that is that is our true essence. Our true essence is that we are love. Because love is that true essence that is God. And that is what we are. I want to look at some scriptures here. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. He said, "The young woman who has never had a man will give birth to a son. They will give him the name Emmanuel," or in Hebrew it's Emmanuel, which means God is with us. Now, that birth of Jesus was signifying that presence of God being right here. I had a teacher when I was going through Unity ministerial training, and his name is Robert Brummett. Excellent teacher, excellent person. Unity minister and teacher and Buddhist practitioner. And Robert Brummett, when he was going through the Unity seminary, would hear these wonderful things about this principle of love, this infinite principle of love that is everywhere, fully comprehensible by each individual, but like kind of a impersonal sort of principle. And he came up to his teacher at Unity Seminary and he said, "This is not good enough for me." And his teacher said, "What?" And Robert said, "I need a God I can kiss." Have you ever heard someone, maybe you haven't, but sometimes I've heard people say, "I need God with skin on." You know, just not some infinite principle, but something that is infinitely personal. And so the birth of Jesus was signifying that presence of God being right here with us. And Jesus coming in as this baby, okay, it says that he was placed in a manger. A manger is a feeding trough for cattle. And so he's placed in a feeding trough, coming to experience that full human experience, being one of us, and as one of us, fully experiencing and fully realizing that oneness and that presence with God, which we call the Christ self. In Sanskrit scriptures, it's called the Paramatma, that divine self that lives within us. Jesus fully realized that and said in John chapter 14, "Greater things shall you do that believe." So he was saying it's not just me, but it's you too. You are here to express the Christ. You are here to give birth to the Christ. It's not just Jesus. Jesus came to show us the way. That's why we call Jesus our way shower. He came to show us the way to fully realize that Christ consciousness and to share it with others and to live that way. Jesus wasn't afraid of what other people thought. At least based on the writings that we have, he didn't get up in the morning and say, "Oh, what will this group say if I do this? Oh, what will that person say if I do this?" He was so grounded in the absolute, so grounded in that presence of God, the presence of truth, And he spoke and lived from that presence. And that's what gave his life such power. And he called us to do the same. So he came here and said, when you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He's so identified with that presence of God. I have numerous affiliations. One of them is in Sufism. I have a Sufi name. It's Amin. Amin means trustworthy or truly. It's related to the word Amen, which means so be it. So I trust it to be. So, in Sufism, there was a teacher who so identified himself with the presence of God that he told his Muslim brothers and sisters, if I open my cloak, all you will see is Allah. They stoned him to death for doing that. But he knew the truth, that there was no separation between he and God. He knew the truth that he had so understood and comprehended his oneness with God that there was no separation. I want to ask you, what is the nature of God? What is that nature? Now there's probably numerous things that come to your mind, like maybe all-powerful or all-knowing. But the Christian scriptures are pretty strong on talking about the nature of God. 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. Now, this is different from the Gospel of John. There's 4 Gospels that made it into what's called the canonized scriptures, the Christian scriptures as we have them, even though there were many, many Gospels that were written. And John is one of those, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But towards the end of the Christian scriptures, there's 3 letters that are from John or from his group. And so 1 John chapter 4 says, dear friends, we must love each other because love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born from God and knows God. The person who doesn't love doesn't know God, because God is love. As I've shared before, when John was an older man, and he's the only one of the disciples that made it into old age, the others were martyred, were killed for their faith. They would bring John in front of the community, and he would get up there and he'd say, little children, love one another. And then he'd sit down. And every Sunday, they'd ask, oh, John, would you please share some good word with us? And he'd do the same thing every Sunday. Little children, love one another. And then he'd sit down. And they said, John, we love you, and we love your leadership, and we love your message. But don't you have more to share with us? Because you keep sharing the same thing every week, that we should love one another. His response was, when you begin to do that, then I'll tell you other things. That was the core of his message. And it comes through in the writings. So, God is love. And when we love, we are expressing God. In unity, we not only celebrate the birth of Jesus at Christmas time, but we celebrate giving birth to the Christ as our lives. Giving birth to this love that wants to live itself as us. And love is personal. I don't know any other way love can be. God, yes, is this infinite principle and completely personal and loving, right at the point of our consciousness. Each one of us can have this relationship with God that is unique and beautiful. God is right where you are. Wherever you are, God is. I want to share with you something else from another teacher, teacher Acharya Sri Prabhupada. So if we could dim the lights just a little bit, thank you. When you love God, you love everyone and everything. This is in his book, Beyond Illusion and Doubt. When you love God, you love everyone and everything. There can be some people or situations that show up in your life that you may wonder, how do I love this person? How do I love this situation? Now, it doesn't mean just laying back and taking it. You know, if you're experiencing abuse or something, no, that's not okay. But how do we love the person? How do we love who and what they really are? How do we do that in spite of how they may be acting? Now, this is what really calls us to operate on spiritual principle, to recognize that divine in that person, even when their behavior and their appearance seems to contradict being the presence of God. God has some amazing disguises. Amazing disguises. It could be the grumpy person that lives in your apartment building. It could be that person at the church that just rubs you wrong. It could be that family member that you will be with at Christmas and wonder, really? Can I be really related to this person? Are you sure? I remember my brother saying to me, "Where did you come from?" You know? When we are able to see that presence of God in each one and truly love from our heart, then we are able to connect with that divine presence as each person. I believe that one of the reasons we are here on earth is to truly be able to see God in everything, to see God in every person, to see God in every situation. To be able to love doesn't mean just being nice all the time. We need to speak the truth in love, but it means being respectful. It means really wanting their highest and best. When I was a teenager, won't go into it all, but I had some friends who said, "You are better than this." That really hit me. I thought, wow. I thought these guys were my friend. Then I realized, oh, they are. They're calling me to the truth. They're speaking to that Christ presence within me and calling it forth. And somehow they could see it when I could not. And I was doing my best to try to not live up to it and not see it. But they could see it. And how could they? By love. Love gives us the vision to see the truth. Love gives us the vision to see who the person really is. Not to be afraid of them, not to be intimidated by them, not to believe in whatever demonstration or drama they may be performing, but to see the true essence of God there. In the Sanskrit scriptures, it's called the Paramatma, that presence of God that lives in us. In the first chapter of John, it says, every soul that was coming into the world came in with this light, We were all born with this light. We didn't have to earn it. We don't have to beg for it. It's already there. And not just at Christmas, but every day, we are here to give birth to that. We are here to give birth to that light, to give birth to that Christ presence. We not only celebrate the birth of Jesus, we are here to celebrate the birth of our true higher self, that divine self. We are here to give birth to that presence of God and touch this world. We're not here to be spectators. Just entertain me, distract me. No, we are here to be the light of the world, and that's what Jesus saw in us. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, and I bet it hit them just the way it hit me, you are the light of the world. You are born to express this light. You are born to express greatness. You are born to express love. This is the third Sunday in Advent. And the third Sunday of Advent, we look at that power of love. Because that is truly the power of the Christ. That is truly our divine nature. You are love. You are love. You are ever existing. You are bliss. That is your true nature. It's time for us to express that and live that. And how do you do it when people are challenging? Yeah, I know, that's hard. I have a friend who hopefully will be able to visit in January. And he and I in Wichita would lift weights. And he's like this big, muscular guy. And he remembers the first time he took me weightlifting and my arms were shaking as I was pushing it up. But he was proud of me for, going at it. And then there was advancement and increase in my strength. Do not think that the spiritual life is just coasting. It requires exercise. And fortunately, there's lots of people in our lives that want to exercise our capability of love even when it doesn't look like it fits. They're the heavy weights in our weight room. Right? That's how we really build our spiritual muscle. That's what Jesus has called us to do and called us to be, is to give birth to the Christ.